If driving feels really scary or even impossible after panic attacks, you're not crazy, you're not weird, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone. Experiencing panic in the car can be really scary and really overwhelming. And trust me, I get it. I lived it for over a decade. Nearly every time I stepped foot into a car, I would experience a panic attack. And it really didn't matter. It could be a car, bus, train, plane. It was really anywhere that I felt stuck and trapped. There was lots of white-knuckling drives, or avoiding being the driver, or avoiding being the passenger, or avoiding being in a car with anyone else. There were also certain places and situations that I avoided while driving, like busy areas or traffic, or places where there wasn't an easy escape or a place to pull over, like the highway, like bridges. I was constantly scanning for exits or a way out, and there was a lot of reassurance seeking. I cannot tell you how many times I called my mom on the phone and said, "You need to talk to me. I'm not okay. I'm not going to be okay, and I'm not going to get through this." And although I always got through every single drive, it was so hard. There were tears, anger, frustration, and so many panic attacks. And as you might already know, driving anxiety really has little to do with actually driving, and it has a lot more to do with how you feel while in the car. So today, I want to talk through driving anxiety with you, what it is, what it looks like, and what actually helped me to overcome it. If driving is feeling really hard, I promise you can get your freedom back. Okay, let's talk about why driving feels so hard. Like I said, driving really isn't the problem, right? It's more of feeling that stuckness, that trappedness, that fear of what if I panic? What if I lose all control? What if something really bad happens? Everything really revolves around that fear of what if I panic and what if I can't handle it? And I just want to validate, panicking in the car is scary. It's overwhelming. Whether you're the driver or the passenger, there's this sense of there's not a quick and easy escape if I feel really anxious or if I panic. If you're the driver, right, sometimes you can pull over. It might be a bit easier, but oftentimes it feels like I can't just get out. I can't just abandon my car. And there's that sense and that urgency of I just need to get to a safe place, and that's often home. Or if you're anything like me, back when I was struggling, riding as a passenger was so hard because I felt like I had even less control. I did not want to look at the person next to me and say, "I'm freaking out right now. I'm having a panic attack. Like, you need to pull over, you need to turn around, you need to drive me home as soon as possible." Either of these are really hard and tricky. And I just have to say, I work with so many people who struggle with driving anxiety. And one of the things that I hear most is I experienced my first panic attack while driving. And most often it was in places that they felt really stuck or trapped, like on the highway or in traffic or driving in certain areas that they felt like there was not a quick escape. And when you experience your first panic attack while driving, it can really heighten that fear of experiencing panic again, because you're like, no, I do not want to experience that feeling ever again, especially in the car. Another thing lots of people tell me is I used to love driving. I used to have no problems. I would get in the car and go. I would do errands. I would bring my kids places. I would even take long road trips, and I actually enjoyed it. Like, I would just play music. I would just sort of zone out, and I never had a problem until I had this panic attack. And I just also want to validate this. This makes so much sense. When you have a really scary moment in the car, your brain really latches onto that. And your brain, of course, being really protective is like, how can we make sure that never happens again? And so it's very easy for this fear to quickly spiral and for you to start some behaviors that might not be so helpful. So after you have this first experience with panicking in the car, you really start fearing the feeling and not so much the situation. And so you're constantly paying attention. How do I feel? Do I feel anxious? And you'll notice any signs, sensations, symptoms that are present in your body. Maybe for you, it's often feeling that hotness, that tingling, that sweating. Maybe it's more so depersonalization, feeling kind of detached. Maybe it's dizziness. Maybe it's heart palpitations. You can experience any and all sensations and symptoms in the car, right? Relating to anxiety. These are very common anxiety symptoms. Another thing that lots of people struggle with is stomach issues, especially being in the car. If your stomach feels a little bit off, if you feel cramping, if you just don't feel good, that can heighten the anxiety. And I know this because I had that added layer of toilet anxiety on top of the driving anxiety. I was constantly afraid of, what if I have to go to the bathroom and there's not really a place that I can easily go? And this made the driving anxiety even harder for me. I have a totally separate video on toilet anxiety, so if you struggle with that, you'll definitely want to check that out. But yeah, it makes sense that you become so hyper aware of all the sensations and the symptoms and of your thoughts. And then comes the behavior changes, which makes perfect sense because you don't want to experience these things while driving or riding as the passenger. So you might find yourself only driving with certain people, only driving short distances, staying close to home, doing lots of escape planning, like checking maps, checking routes, checking for if there's places that you can pull over, if there are safe places in case you do panic. You might be avoiding certain places or situations, like driving on the highway is really common, or driving in places that you experienced the panic attack in before. You also might be taking lots of things with you just in case, like safety objects, like a cold water bottle, maybe an ice pack, maybe sour candies, or just doing a lot of things to distract yourself in hopes that you don't feel the anxiety or have a panic attack while driving. And all of these things make sense, but unfortunately, these type of behaviors fuel the anxiety because it really tells your brain what's happening is not okay, this is big, bad, scary, we can't feel anxious in the car. And so you just find yourself continuing on this cycle. And this is the cycle that I was on for years. I would try to do anything and everything to not feel anxious while driving, and I would do anything to not have a panic attack. And I had so many panic attacks. So that strategy, I know and figured out the hard way, did not work. But if you have any of these behaviors, if you have avoidance in the mix, I don't want you to shame yourself or beat yourself up. It's okay, it makes sense, and it takes lots of self-compassion and gentle, healthy steps to move beyond this. So I want to talk a little bit about the ways that driving anxiety can show up. So like I said, you might experience more anxiety as the driver. Like, I don't like being the driver because I feel like I really have to pay attention. I have to be responsible. I cannot experience anxiety while I'm driving. And you might have that sense of like, it's all on me, right? Like, I'm it. I have to make sure that everything's okay and that I'm okay and that I don't harm anyone else or do anything that could be dangerous. Whereas for you, you might experience more anxiety as the passenger because you feel like I have less control as the passenger, right? Like, if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm not driving. I can't just easily pull over, can't turn around and go home. I'm going to have to communicate to the person that's driving, I'm not okay and I need to do something right now, right? And that sense of urgency can be really hard, especially when you have other people in the car. And for you, you might struggle with a bit of both. This was definitely me. I struggled as a driver and I struggled as a passenger. And really, both of these things come down to control and that feeling of having a lack of control. You can also have specific triggers, right? And I've mentioned some of these, like the highway, bridges, but also really common traffic lights, left-hand turns, going through drive-thrus. And now that I say this one, I have to tell you a little story that's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. I remember being in the drive-thru when I was struggling and I felt that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a panic attack. Like, I would get the tingling, the heat, I would just instantly feel nauseous and feel so incredibly off. And I knew that I was gonna panic. And this was one of those drive-thrus that there were not two lanes. Like, it was just one lane. And I remember like really being in my head and working this up so much that I was like, nope, I can't do this. I need to get out. And I literally drove up over a curb. Like, it was maybe even considered a median. I don't know. But I drove up over this curb because I was like, I cannot be stuck here. I cannot do this. And of course, a couple of minutes later, I felt so much relief. And then I looked back and I was like, why did I just do that? Like, I felt so much shame, so much embarrassment. And these moments are so incredibly freaking hard because obviously this is not how you want to function. You don't want to be doing these things. You don't want to be experiencing all this anxiety and panic and functioning this way, but you really feel like you don't have that control and like you just can't help it. So if you've had any experiences like this, I just want to validate it makes sense. It's okay. Please do not beat yourself up for it. But I'm really happy that I can look back on this now and laugh and find the humor in it. Okay, so these things obviously feel harder because there's that sense of feeling stuck and trapped. There's this feeling of a lack of control, and there's this feeling of being exposed, right? And all of these things make so much sense and can just heighten those feelings of anxiety. And we really have to recognize with all of these things, the core fear really is, I don't want to feel, right? I don't want to feel so anxious, so panicky that I can't handle it. I don't want to not be okay. But we have to remember, it's not the actual situation, right? It's not the driving, it's not the highway, it's not the bridges, it's not any of these specific things. It really is your relationship to your feelings. That relationship to anxiety is massive. And that's why I talk so much about it, because that's really where the healing happens. So let's shift and talk about what actually helped me to get to where I am today, to the place where I can just get in the car. I don't think about anxiety. I can drive. I'm not having panic attacks. I can take my daughter to school. I can pick her up. I can go grocery shopping. I can do all the normal everyday things without even thinking about anxiety. And also, I can do really big things, like I can take road trips, I can take long drives, I can get on the highway. I can do all of these things, like I said, without thinking about anxiety. And I know it's really hard because you might be like, that's not real. I know when you're living it, it's so hard to even think and believe that getting to that place is possible. But I promise you, you can get to a place where you don't even think about anxiety. You're not worried about panicking. You just get in the car and you're able to drive and have that peace and that joy and that freedom that you once had. So let's talk about the first thing that really helped me. And this is going to sound really simple, but I want you to stick with me because it was so incredibly helpful for me. So when I was struggling, before I would get in the car, I used to sort of tell myself, like, you're going to be okay. You're not going to feel anxious. You're not going to panic. Like, everything's going to be all right. And it's just so silly looking back now because I'm like, why did I tell myself that? Like, I often experienced anxiety in the car, and it made sense that I did. I had a really big fear of it. So when it popped up, it made total sense that it did. So rather than getting in the car and having this expectation of like, I'm going to be okay, I'm not going to panic, like everything's going to be fine, shifting that expectation to, yeah, I'm probably going to feel anxious. There might be some anxiety, there might even be panic, and you know what? That's okay. And giving yourself that permission for anxiety to come along, for anxiety to get in the car, to drop that resistance to it is massive. I know you don't want it to come with you, right? I know you don't want it in the car, but if we start off the drive with, I can't feel anxious, I shouldn't feel anxious, I don't want to feel anxious, that's going to welcome in so much anxiety. So shifting from, I don't want to feel it, I'm not going to feel it, everything's going to be fine, to, you know what, I might feel anxious, I might panic, and that's okay. I'll work through it just like I always have. This will be so much more helpful than that continued resistance to anxiety. Okay, the second thing that was really helpful for me, and this is a massive one, is not immediately jumping to trying to stop myself from feeling anxious or from trying to fix it. Literally, when I felt the slightest twinge of anxiety, whether it was thoughts, feelings, didn't matter, I would jump to what can I do to make myself not feel this way? It was usually distraction, calling someone, blasting cold air in my face, rolling my windows down, like pinching myself, hitting myself. I did it all. I also did all the breathing techniques, the grounding practices, like anything anyone told me could and should be helpful, I was doing it. But all of this was creating so much resistance to anxiety. Like what I was telling my brain was, this isn't okay. We can't feel this, right? And anxiety being protective, your brain being protective, goes into overdrive when you start doing all these things. And it's like, oh my gosh, there must be something really big, bad, scary, dangerous happening. We need to keep sounding the alarms, right? We need to keep protecting. And that's often why when you find yourself doing all the things to make yourself not feel anxious, you feel even more anxious. So it was really big for me in these moments to start to slow down and just let myself actually make space for anxiety and for it to be there without me doing all the things to try to get rid of it. And yes, this was incredibly hard because one of my go-tos was calling my mom. I knew if I felt anxious or if I felt on the verge of panic, if I called my mom, I would get that relief. And I know it's so tricky to step away from these things, but it's so important that you build that self-trust and show yourself, I can handle these feelings and I don't need to look outward and I don't need to do all these things to get rid of the anxiety. So this was a big one for me, shifting from getting rid of it to having more of that acceptance, like allowing anxiety to be there without all the doing. Okay, number 3, and you might roll your eyes at this one, and that's okay, but this is another big one that was so helpful for me. And it's that you've got to work on your relationship with anxiety outside of the car. So much of the work that I was doing, I was only trying to like fix it, make it better when I was in the car, because I experienced so much anxiety and panic in the car. But there are so many different times, places, situations that you experience anxiety where you have that opportunity to practice slowing down and having a healthier response to it. And so I had to realize, like in my day-to-day, how am I responding to anxiety? Like, am I pushing up against it? Am I trying to resist it so much? And how can I better make space for it? And there were so many opportunities just beyond the car. I always tell people, yes, you can struggle with driving anxiety, but it's your overall relationship with anxiety, right? That's the problem and is what we need to fix. And so that work comes in your day-to-day, not just in the drives. So it's allowing anxiety during everyday moments. It's not constantly trying to control it and to control all the things, like actually letting yourself slow down and be with your feelings. You know, I have to say this, if anxiety feels like an emergency, the car is always going to feel like an emergency. Like looking back now, I can see it so clearly. It was as though I had created, like the car was like a pressure cooker. Like when I got in the car, there was so much like intensity, there was so much pressure, there was so much like, don't feel anxious, you can't feel this way, or like if you do, we've got to do exactly this, that, like we've got to do it right. And there was so much pressure. And it's like when there's all that pressure and all that force, it makes sense that there's so much anxiety, right? So not allowing the car to be this pressure cooker, like actually focusing on your relationship with anxiety outside of the car will be so helpful. Okay, number 4, the last one, is a big one. You cannot just force yourself to check boxes. And what I mean by this is you can't just force yourself to get in the car and say, okay, today I need to drive because I need to overcome anxiety. So here we go. We're going to get in the car. We're going to drive to the grocery store again, or we're going to drive around the block again, or we're going to just do this because we have to or we should. These type of steps are not incredibly helpful. This is adding more of that force and more of that pressure. If you're doing things in this way, this is really just white-knuckling, right? This is forcing, this is powering through. This is like that mentality of, I've just got to do it. I've just got to face the fear. And this does not build self-trust. Self-trust gets built in like slow, steady, meaningful actions, not in force and pressure. So something that was super helpful for me was shifting from this, like, I just got to drive, I got to get in the car, I got to make myself do this, like I got to make myself drive on the highway, to, okay, what do I actually want to do? What's actually important to me? Like, what's a step that's meaningful? What's somewhere I can go that will actually allow me to practice, but is somewhere like I actually want to be? You know, I have to tell you this, I love hiking. I've always been a hiker, even when I was struggling. But hiking was so freaking hard for me when I was struggling because I live in Maine. I primarily hiked in the White Mountains, and I still do. And that's like an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive, sometimes even more. So the drive there was like so hard, felt really impossible. And then to get out of the car, right, and hike, and to be out in the woods on a mountain 3-4 hours into a hike, not having like that safety, you can just imagine, I'm sure your brain is going to all the places. But I had to allow myself to continue to do these things because hiking was so incredibly important to me. Like the drives, I just remember there being so many tears, so much frustration and anger and panic attacks, and it being really brutal. And probably in the moment I would have told you, like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is so ridiculous. But looking back, it is something that definitely helped me to heal. Like those drives sucked so much, but allowing myself to go and to hike and to live, like go toward the things that actually meant something to me and things that I valued, is a huge part of how my healing happened. So I just want to encourage you, please don't just be forcing yourself to drive just for the sake of saying, I did it. Like, what can we actually do that's going to be motivating and helpful and help you to just live more? I always tell my students, healing happens in the living. It doesn't happen in the forcing. It doesn't happen in these like curated exposures, and it doesn't happen in like doing things that don't matter to you. So less force and less doing things just to say that you did them, and more thinking of, okay, what can I do? What's meaningful to me? What's important to me? What are some things that I actually want to do that will help me to live more and not focus so much on anxiety and recovering and getting better? Okay, so I just have to say here, there are so many things that helped me to overcome driving anxiety, but it's not nearly as hard as people make it out to be. Like what I did looking back was so simple. It made so much sense, but there was just so much I didn't know. So much that people were telling me, like, just do this breathing exercise, just do these grounding practices. And none of that stuff was helpful. So I created a mini course called Overcoming Driving Anxiety, where I put everything in there that actually helped me to get to where I am today. And it's not all that stuff that I'm sure you've heard a billion times before. Like, it's simple, practical, here's what you can do inside the car, outside the car, before you get in the car, that's actually going to help you to heal your relationship with anxiety and make it so that you can go on those long drives, so that you can enjoy driving again, so that you can do the simple everyday things without worrying, am I going to have a panic attack? Am I going to be able to handle it? Am I going to be okay? So if you want a little extra support and guidance, you can check out that course. And if it speaks to you, take it. I promise it will be helpful. Okay, before I end, a few things that I just want to highlight real quick. I know it feels really dangerous to panic while in the car, maybe especially as the driver. We can't go with our feelings, right? Things can feel dangerous, but we can be perfectly safe. So you have to acknowledge just because something feels unsafe, just because something feels dangerous, doesn't necessarily mean it is, right? How many times have you experienced anxiety and panic in the car and you've been okay? So acknowledging to your brain, like, this is uncomfortable, we don't like this doesn't feel good, but we're safe, is so incredibly helpful. Okay, the next thing, so much of the stuckness, the trappedness is created internally. It's not externally. Like, yes, you might be driving on the highway. There might not be this quick and easy place to pull over. But what is creating a lot of the stuckness is that internal dialogue that's going on. And when you work to shift that internal dialogue, so much of the external stuff shifts too. I also have to tell you, progress is messy. There are going to be some drives where it's like easy, there's not much anxiety, and then there are going to be some drives that are so freaking hard, where you do have a panic attack and you're like, what the heck? I've been doing so good, like this doesn't make any sense. And you really just have to have so much compassion, because these moments are going to happen and it's really not your fault. It's just part of the process. You've got to recognize that you're teaching your brain something new, and our brains don't really love to learn new things. You're really moving from showing your brain, telling your brain, like, I need to not panic. It's not okay for me to panic, to it's okay for me to panic and I'm going to support myself through it. That's a really hard thing for our brains to learn. So please be gentle and compassionate with yourself. I promise you're doing so much better than you think you are. Okay, I want to end with this, and I really hope that you hear me. If you've been struggling with driving anxiety for months or years or a decade or more, recovery is absolutely possible. I don't care how awful it looks. I don't care what place you're in, how much avoidance there is. You are absolutely capable of healing your relationship with anxiety and being able to get in the car again and feel that peace, joy, and freedom. And I know that you probably don't believe me, and that's okay. You don't have to believe it. You just have to consistently take healthy steps to get there. So I just want to give you that gentle nudge. What's one thing you could do differently today that will help you on this journey? You are so freaking capable, so much more capable than you give yourself credit for.